topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask Good Questions podcast, broadcasting live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio at W4CY.com. This week and every week, we will reach for a higher purpose in money and life, as well as a focus on health and wellness. Now, let's join your host, Bonita Bell Anderson, as together we start with Asking Good Questions.
Welcome to the Ask Good Questions podcast. My name is Bonita Bell Anderson, and I'm so happy that you're here today. We have got a very, very important topic today, and so I would like to welcome to the podcast stage attorney Paul Deloughery. Did I say that right? I hope.
Yes, you did. Good job.
Okay. Yay. So welcome, Paul. Paul is coming at you from Arizona, from Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm actually coming at you from Hawaii. I mean, most people by now know that I'm on a senior mission. And so I'm in Hawaii for a year doing a mission for my church with my husband. But I am having a great time doing these podcasts from my home base in Hawaii. So, Paul, I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you. So what I have learned was that your father had accumulated about 28 million, seriously, 28 million by investing his military retirement income. Wow.
That's right.
In penny stocks.
Yeah.
Penny stocks. So when Paul inherited this, everyone, half was lost to estate taxes. And most of the rest he lost for a variety of reasons. So he's shaking his head. Yeah. So Paul is an estate planning and probate attorney who regularly works with people struggling with the same thing. So, wow, you're going to get the inside story today. So receiving a financial windfall a lot of times means that people then continue to make poor choices with it. And basically, what we know is that it typically takes about 5 years before people can emotionally adjust to a major life change like that. So, and also, Paul has written a book about this called Lasting Wealth, a revolutionary method for family wealth transfer. We have a bonus downloads section on my website that is where you can find, if you want to go find the information about Paul's book, then that's where you'll be able to find it. So welcome, Paul.
Good to talk to you, Bonita. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, well, why don't you first tell me what inspired you to focus your legal practice on inheritance and wealth transfer? I mean, it's kind of like, oh, I think I want to, this is an area that a lot of people get messed up, don't they?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly why. I think I have a deeper answer to that. I'll tell you kind of superficially. The answer is that I'm not sure if enjoy is the right word, but I can't imagine doing anything else. So, okay. I like the intellectual challenge of it, and I like connecting with people when they're going through one of the most challenging times of their lives. So it kind of gives me it. It gives me a chance to use my skill of thinking outside the box and coming up with creative solutions and connecting with people and trying to help them through the process.
Well, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of purpose in that, which is what we all need. We all need some purpose and everything. So, yeah. And at that point, people need a good attorney. Having gone through a terrible divorce a long time ago now, you need a good attorney when you're facing stuff that you have no experience with.
Right.
So, what in your experience with this challenging area, why can a sudden inheritance be more overwhelming than exciting for people?
Well, it forces a paradigm shift. It's a form of trauma. So getting married is a form of trauma. It is. I mean, it's a paradigm shift. Or graduating. Honestly, think about think about professional athletes who get a big contract and then within a couple of years they're in bankruptcy. Like, well, how did that happen?
I wrote a book about that.
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay, or people who win the Olympics, and then within a year they're obese and alcoholic and depressed and suicidal. Like, what's going on there? Like, shouldn't they be happy? But it's boy, there's no quick way to summarize this, but let me approach it from one angle, because in order to really in order to really answer your question, I need to look at it from different angles. It's kind of like what's the story about the blind people going up to an elephant, and one touches the tail and one touches the leg and different other things. They describe totally different things. Well, so it's a little bit like that. But what I could say is, so getting a sudden inheritance removes the need to work. And I think a lot of people, well, let me back up. Like Jordan Peterson says, we're meant to walk uphill. Like we're meant to struggle a little bit. And it's like riding a bicycle. You can't just ride a bicycle standing still. Like, you can't just sit on it. You have to be moving forward. You have to be pushing. And what a sudden major inheritance does, it removes all the necessity for going to work, for struggling to pay the bills and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden it's like a person's life grinds to a halt, and then you're left with, well, what are you left with? You're left with what people say. Oh, you should do this and you should do that, and trying to find answers outside yourself, which are never fulfilling. By definition, you can never find the answer for your purpose or fulfillment outside of yourself, ever. It has to come from inside. And if you've never figured that out, like, people can go their entire lives. People do go their entire lives without even thinking about this question, just because they just work and work and work. And then on the weekends they do something and get drunk or whatever. And then they die. But all of a sudden, like, if you can take a break, I mean, that's a shock. So,
we see it clearly with people that win the lottery. It's not inheritance money, but it's still the same thing.
Sure.
They win the lottery, and there's so many examples of people who completely wreck their lives in the next 2-3 years. And then they're saying things like, oh, I wish it never would have happened. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Well, what do you think are the most common emotional reactions? What have you seen with working with people?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about a major inheritance, in terms of emotion, and I think I actually gave that question to you, which means I should have an answer for it, but I don't really. So the most common for a major inheritance is, it could be fear, like fear of losing it, or because at that point, people are coming around asking for money and begging for money and this and that, and so all of a sudden you don't know who to trust, and so like a certain amount of just anxiety, it just creates anxiety, and then wanting meaning, like a search for meaning, I guess. I don't know what that feeling is, but I'll tell you for myself what it was. For me, and I'll just tell you super, super fast my story. So I only met my father for the first time 6 weeks before he died. He had been kept a secret. His existence was kept a secret from me during my whole childhood. Now, other relatives knew about it. My cousins knew about it. Like friends at high school even knew about it, and which put me in this weird position because I had this sense. I mean, kids are fairly sensitive and fairly intuitive, and like I had this sense that like I was missing something, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But anyway, and then later on when I finally found him and then he died, like, I was angry about the fact that I was never given the opportunity to have a relationship with him, and he had been kept from me. I was sad. I was ecstatic about having a whole bunch of money, and I had these ideas. I mean, I would. It sounds ridiculous, but I would walk through a neighborhood and think, well, I could just buy 20 of these houses, if I wanted to, and so like I had all these emotions that were just like you throw them all into a blender, and that's how I felt, and I was functional only because like I was again extremely sad, extremely happy, extremely anxious and afraid and angry, and they all just kind of balanced each other out. So I could walk through life kind of like a normal person just because I had these intense emotions that were all balancing each other out. That's the best I can explain it.
I just figured out something that's been in the back of my mind about something about you, and that was, he's an estate planning attorney. Right. How could he let his father lose half of that money to taxes? And so now, that explains it. You weren't in the mix.
Right. Well, and so there's another part of this too, which is I've learned to live with a lot of shame in my life, and it's taken me a while to let go of that. But there is this kind of undercurrent of shame, and I could never put my finger on it. Like, okay, there are some things that happened to me that a person could be, ashamed for, but that doesn't even explain it. Like, there's just this like general sense of not fitting in for me, and it's because I was told one story. I was this Irish German guy, and so I learned the bagpipes, and I played, or I competed in Irish music, and I competed in Irish dance and all of this stuff. And then at the age of 35, I learned that, I'm actually 100% German. And so that, then but I have an Irish name, and I've named my kids with Irish first names, and then I'm all confused and all of this stuff. Yeah. Anyway, there is a little bit to that, but in terms, you're right. I'm a trained attorney, and intellectually I can think through all of these things. But what I have figured out, and it's taken me years, but what I figured out is there's different layers to this. There's different layers of reality, I guess. And can I kind of go off on a little tangent here? Because I think it'll help.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. So I like to explain that, like, imagine society. Okay. How do you have a fully functioning society? Not necessarily like we have right now, but a fully functioning society has aspirations. Okay. They aspire to be whatever. They aspire to be like Jesus or like Superman or something like we have heroes that we aspire to be like. And then there are also underneath that, excuse me, Let me get a drink of water here.
Okay.
Underneath the aspirations, you have common mores, MORES, like common, understood values.
Right.
Don't steal, be honest, respect your parents, kind of the 10 Commandments style stuff.
Mhm.
Okay. And we also don't really have that too much anymore. And then underneath that is the law. Okay. And the law is supposed to be like the foundation. Like, if all of that other stuff just goes to hell, at least you have the law. And now there are segments of society trying to punch holes in that and get rid of that. So we just have complete anarchy. But that's really the way that, and I'm being very general here, but that's kind of the framework for a good functioning society. Similarly, if you're trying to organize a family and maybe you have some money and you want to figure out how to pass the money on to the next generation, well, the way that works the best is to have some aspirational things. Like that would be that's usually created by family stories. Like grandpa came. I can tell the story about my grandparents and how they came over and they struggled, and then my mom didn't. This is my own thing, but my mom didn't speak English when she went to grade school. She had to learn English there because they spoke German at home, and this and that, and all the different trials and tribulations that they went through. And despite that, and then she ran away from home when she was 16, but then she was finally able to get to a point where she started the graduate nursing program at UCLA. So, going kind of from rags to riches kind of a thing. That's the kind of thing that is inspiring to a family. And every family has something like that. I mean, every family has something like that where you can, like, there's some hero or something you can kind of be like. And if you don't have it in your own family, then you can look elsewhere and, go to, think about your church or religion or whatever. And then also within the families having common values. Like for me, we just always had an understood value that we just stick together, and no matter what. And I have, thank goodness, I have successfully passed that on to my kids, I believe. And we sometimes talk about it, but I don't need to like harp on them or anything, because it's just something we know. Like they go off and do their own thing, but if someone my daughter breaks up with a boyfriend or has to move out or something like that, she always knows she can call me. And there's that. And then I have estate planning documents. But what I have noticed, let's see how I can explain this. So I do a lot of probate litigation, and I have noticed that there's almost no relationship between whether the family ends up in court and if they have a will or a trust or a financial plan or that kind of a thing. Almost no relationship. And I know everyone says, oh, you need a trust because it avoids probate. Now, what avoids probate is having common values and good communication and trust in the family. That's what avoids probate.
Wow. That's a little gold nugget.
Now, the bottom line, like, I was talking with society, you have the laws, kind of the bottom line, which, and it's supposed to work. It doesn't always work, but it's supposed to work. That's with legal documents. Now, legal, like a well-done trust can avoid probate, but here's the thing, like, and I've seen this. Okay, you have a perfectly well-done trust done by an attorney. Everything is clear, unambiguous, all that kind of stuff. But then if the kids, let's say one of the kids, let's say the parents were alcoholics and mentally or physically abused the kids, or maybe there's some incest in the family, or there's some drug abuse or something like that. Yeah, that's more likely to end up in court. You can have perfectly good documents, but they're going to still fight over this or that or whatever.
Well, yeah, because you don't have the family dynamics to pass on good values then. Yeah,
Right.
I can see that.
Right.
Because people are going to be wanting to get back at them or derail it somehow. Well, so what do you think are the biggest financial mistakes people make? Maybe, sometimes it could be because there's dysfunctional emotional stuff going on in the family. But what do you think are some of the biggest financial mistakes people will make, like in that first year? Because most of the time, what I'm telling people is sit back and wait. Don't do anything.
Yeah, the biggest financial mistakes are spending the money.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, now it's gone.
Yeah. Well, and here's the funny thing about it. Here's the thing about human nature. So you take someone who goes from $200 in their checking account to $1 million, or it could be any amount. But
yeah,
here, let's do something super common. Okay, they go from $200 in the checking account to $50,000 in the checking account. Okay, super common. From an inheritance. Well, the way the human thinks is, okay, I have $50,000, so I can pay off my credit card debt, and I can go on a $50,000 vacation, and I can give that $50,000 to my kids, and I can use that $50,000 to buy a house. And they start, and like in their brain, they well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like they start thinking, oh, I can do this and this and this, and pretty soon, after like 2 months, like, oh wait, why am I $150,000 or $200,000 in the hole? Yeah, because there was only $150,000.
Right. Well, so tell me, I mean, like when I first saw that your dad had invested his retirement income in penny stocks, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so, because, I've done a lot of investor coaching, and oh my gosh, that would not be what I would ever tell anybody to do. How do you see poor investing choices? Maybe out of pressure from somebody else saying, hey, this is a great stock tip. But how do you see that turning a fortune into a nightmare?
Well, I mean, it depends on how good you are. I mean, my father was he was a Vietnam veteran and kind of a loner. And he just spent all day like researching this, like literally that's all he did for years and years, decades and decades. And so I'm not sure exactly how to answer your question. Like I think for most people it's good. Here's how I look at it. So I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers here, but here we go. So I've kind of found, and I'm sure there's studies about this or something, but I've kind of found that maybe 5% of people like really know what they're doing, like genuinely know what they're doing. And then
you mean
there's
with investing, we're talking about
or
investing choices.
with anything. Yeah. Like they genuinely know what they're doing. And then there's 20% of people ish or whatever. I'm kind of making this up, but 20% of people that follow what the 5% do. And then there's 75% of people who just don't have a clue. And they're always just, trying to figure out, looking for tips and YouTube and Google and all this kind of stuff. And so just my advice, like try to find if it's a company or an advisor associated with a company or whatever that really knows what they're doing. Like just go to that. Or like if you 100% know that you're going to be one of those 5% people who really know what they're doing and you want to learn how to invest yourself. Well, and I'm speaking from personal experience here. You can't do that instantaneously. I thought I could. You can't learn how to be a wonderful investor immediately.
No.
And so like certainly for some period of time, you need to rely on someone else. And that's, if I could tell myself one thing, boy, if I could tell myself one thing, like I would have a really, really strong conversation and say, just put the money in the stock market. Like if I had just done that, it would have been fine. But like what I did for me, I saw these big money swings. Like, I went from not much money, not much of a net worth to $28 million to 14 million because I had to write checks to the state of Washington and to the U.S. Treasury, and so like these big wide swings, and then then like my father died in he died in 2009 when there was an estate tax, and if he had only lived for like 2 more months, there would have been no estate tax, and like just these dramatic things, and it kind of shaped the way I was thinking. So then I was thinking, oh well, great, 14 million and all these big numbers and stuff. Oh, and well, I need to like double, make my money back right away. So I was going for like adventurous private equity investments and all this kind of stuff, which didn't work out.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one of the things. I've done financial education for years, and most people really don't. There's a lot of pull to do the wrong thing, and people don't, often find out that there's more prudent ways to do things. But let's keep on. I mean, we're talking a little bit is understanding the traps, and can you explain why even like a well-meaning friend or a well-meaning family member can sometimes become a risk for that person with the new wealth? Because I think, like you were talking about human nature, it's not always on the up and up.
Right. Well, I mean, from my own experience, this was more in my experience. Let's see. I don't know. Should I talk from my experience or more general? I'll try to be more general, I guess. So friends and family, what often happens is they come up with somewhat self-serving ideas. Now, my family did not do that. My family was wonderful. I was actually the jerk. I will freely admit that. But in a lot of cases, it's friends and family and whatnot that, have ideas. Oh, can you help me with this? And just loan me money for this amazing business idea and whatnot. Yeah. And so, yeah, it takes, it puts someone in a really awkward position.
Let's take it a step further. Okay. What about scammers? What about predatory advisors? There are certainly stories out there about that as well. Where do you think that plays in? I think people are pretty vulnerable, or can be.
Yeah. So the law is really funny that way. If your net worth is if your investable assets are under $1 million, then you're protected because you can only go into mutual funds and certain investments and whatnot. Right. But if you go over that, then the federal law has it doesn't ask how much experience you have. It's only about what your investable net worth is. Is it $1 million? Is it 5 million? And if it's over $1 million, you just sign this piece of paper that no one reads, basically saying that you're a sophisticated investor. So just by getting the inheritance under federal law, you're instantaneously sophisticated, meaning that you know everything there is, and because you instantaneously have this like online degree, essentially, you can choose all the good investments. And so at that point, the scam artists and whatnot come out and try to convince you about all kinds of things. And I mean, oh my gosh, the stories I could tell. I got taken. I'll tell you a couple. I mean,
did you get taken as well?
That's where all the money went. Yeah. I invested in oil wells in Texas around the time that they were discovering oil in North Dakota and Canada, and so the price of oil came down. So that didn't turn out to be a great idea. And then the company I was investing in was they were paying way too much money for their for the president and the management. Way too much money was going for the management team's lifestyle, as opposed to like keeping the company streamlined and doing a good job. And I invested, and I will use the word investment in the loosest possible way. I invested money in a art company up in Portland, Oregon, and the business model actually seemed to be good. Like I mean, I did look at it, and anyway, I won't go into it. It's not worth it. But it actually had a business model where they would make a sculpture, and they would provide it for free to schools, having a charity auction, and then they would they had a minimum bid, and the school, whatever over that, it was, as long as it got sold for over that, then the company got 50% and the school got 50%. So everything was win-win. I mean, it seemed like a going thing. The reality is that I invested millions of dollars with that company, and it come to find out it went towards buying the president of the owner of the company's a new house, complete with a helicopter pad, and I think I even helped with the down payment on the helicopter. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's a lot. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have a story about investing in an oil company, and I completely 100% of that was gone. But yeah, it's part of my mistakes that I've made along the way that drove me to where I am today with talking about the whole thing with diversification. But we're not here to talk about diversification.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit about the legal and structural issues. So people have this fantastic thing, you decide whether or not it's fantastic, but you have this thing that happens. Is there legal protections or structures that heirs can put in place to prevent a rapid loss of wealth? What do you tell people to do first off?
Okay, are we talking about the heirs putting something in place?
Yeah, the heir is putting the heir is putting something in place. Maybe just not being able to touch it.
Well,
for a while.
What I would do if I could go back and suggest this for myself, here's what I would do. I would suggest putting it into an irrevocable trust for probably 5 years, and maybe have some amount of money that I could invest, quote unquote, myself, and the rest of it is locked up. Or I mean, 5 years would be ideal, because after 5 years, like, hopefully you have a, yeah. So that now I've suggested this to people. No one has ever taken my advice, but I mean, well, here's the problem. Like, how do you do that? It's like, I don't know, like your daughter falls in love with a loser boy, and you try to tell him, try to tell your daughter, no, he's a loser. Like, he doesn't have a job. I think he's on drugs. I don't know what's going on, but your daughter's in love with this guy. Like, how do you make that advice stick? And it's the same thing for someone who has an inheritance, and it's hard. It's hard. I don't know what to do. The best thing is for the parents to put something in place.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that this is going to lead to some people taking some actions to protect. Well, it's like not even the person that is, creating this legacy for family, but it's like protecting people from themselves, which is what I'm thinking about. What do you think is the difference between inheriting cash versus inheriting real estate or business, things that are not quite so liquid.
Well, real estate can be liquid within a month or two. So I don't know that that's a big
true.
difference.
You can have the fire sale.
Of course. And same thing with the business. I mean, businesses are tricky for sure. If there's anyone listening to this and there's a business involved, that's where you absolutely should put some things in place. I mean, I've seen businesses just, well, here's the reality. Like if the family is fighting over control and people are going in and, like one person goes in and fires all the employees and then the other person goes in and hires the employees back. Like, I mean, that's too much going on. Or,
right.
or they're trying to like take all the accounts and start a new business. Or like, I mean, I've seen this and it can be just complete chaos. So,
Right.
how do you do it? Well, honestly, for a lot of this stuff, for some of this stuff, if it's one person who inherited the assets, then, just, I guess, good luck to them and God bless them. And hopefully they make good decisions. If it's multiple people, like if it's multiple children and they're fighting over what to do and all this kind of stuff, really the best thing to do is to go to court. Like everyone talks about probate being horrible or whatever. And I agree, it can be. An emergency room can be horrible too. But you know what? If you get in a car accident and you're bleeding, an emergency room's a great place. Like just go there. And the same thing with the probate court. Like the probate court has wonderful solutions for bad situations. So I think a lot of people avoid going to probate just because they have this idea, probate's horrible and it costs a lot of money and it's expensive. But the same thing about the emergency room. Yeah, it costs a lot of money, but you can also save lives that way.
Right. What, so time always goes so fast. All right. I want to kind of down to I want to finish up and have some strong finish here with some practical suggestions.
Yeah.
So what professionals should an heir surround themselves with? That maybe, like, I would hope that if you have some good family dynamics going and people know that they're going to be inheriting, what professionals should they surround themselves with that hopefully are trusted advisors that can help them make good decisions?
You actually hit it on the head. I think the type of professional is less important than the trusted advisor. And I think a trusted advisor is someone who's gone through a similar situation. Yeah. Like I struggled for years with finding a trusted advisor, someone who had actually gone through this same situation. And I've talked to a lot of financial advisors and told them about my story, and I've sent them copies of my book, and they read it, how got money and lost it. And their answer is always, "Oh, you just needed a certified financial planner." Like, what? I mean, that's what I needed. What I needed was someone that I could connect with, who I trusted and who I could communicate with. And ideally, that person would have been an attorney or a financial planner or a pastor, or, I mean, it could have been anyone. It really could have been anyone, but just someone who has gone through my experience and has some insight. That's what I really needed.
Right. Yeah. Well, how do you help? So let's say you've got somebody coming in. How do you help that person slow down and make intentional choices rather than just reacting to whatever that is going on? How do you help them slow down?
I try to connect and have them trust me, and so that they can, so when I tell them to slow down, that they listen.
Yeah, because really it's kind of like, okay, deep breath. Let's, because there's, so what strategies are you using these days for turning that one-time inheritance into a lasting generational wealth? What kind of strategies do you recommend?
I go back to what I said before, the 3 layers. I'm working with my kids all the time about their aspirations, and not just things that I'm telling them. Like they have to come up with their own aspirations, but we come up with common ideas. Just it happens naturally, and common values of communication, and we practice this all the time with. Oh shoot! I'm tempted to go into a story about my daughter, but I'm not, to respect her privacy. But like my kids come to me with their issues, and I share my own issues. I'm probably more open than many parents are about my things and how I'm learning, and think like my kids can rack off the things that I've learned this year. I became sober. Like that was a huge thing, and
Yeah.
just different things like that. So we're connecting that way, and then working on legal documents together. But so the answer, I think your question was like, what's a concrete step to tell people? Like just work on communication. If you and it's a process. Like there's something called active listening. If you're listening, if you're listening, you don't know what active listening is, learn about it. If you're listening and you find yourself doing things because other people say that you should, or doing things because of other people's feelings, that's called codependency. Like learn about that, like learn about some of these things, and then talk to your kids, because if it's affected you, I guarantee it's affected your kids, because it's rubbed off, and then you can learn about it together.
Right. I could say also, there's other episodes that I've had with other guests where we've talked about some of these things, about figuring out more of the psychological, emotional things. So, Paul, we're running out of time. And so, Paul, what would you leave listeners with? What would be one piece of advice, maybe, about turning inheritance into something lasting? What would be the one thing that you would want to leave people with?
I could give you a quick, short answer, or I can give you something meaningful. Which one do you want?
You pick.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the real answer, and some people may find this hard to understand, but I'm going to give you what I think is the real answer. And the real answer is to leave a lasting legacy. Like, do some soul searching and figure out what you actually want, not what you think you're supposed to do, not what your parents told you were supposed to do, not what you saw a YouTube video about or whatever. Like really figure out what you want. And I know you're Christian. I'm Christian.
Basically saying, ask yourself some good questions, right? You're basically,
it has to do with so the Bible doesn't talk about dharma, but it's dharma. Okay, figure out. I mean, I think, okay, whole different episode, whole different tangent, but figure out what your purpose is. Okay, and that takes silence. That takes some quiet and soul searching and whatnot, and then like figure out what's really meaningful. Not just short little things like, oh, these coffee cups or whatever, are supposed to stay in the family. Is that really important, or is it more of a value? Like just do some soul searching.
Awesome. Well, we are out of time. This always goes so fast. And I think I'm hoping people will listen to this again, because there's some very, very, very important things, and you never know when this might be coming your way. And so, Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much to everyone that's listening for joining the Ask Good Questions podcast.
Thanks, Bonita.
All right.
Today's episode is over, but we did ask good questions again, didn't we? Don't miss out as we broadcast live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio at W4CY.com. Join Bonita Bell Anderson next week for more conversations with experts on finances, retirement, behavioral finance issues, health and wellness, and more. Until then, remember to ask good questions.